Hey guys, what's up? Snitler here, and today I'm going to show you something real cool, really useful in modded Minecraft, and it is the automated world eater / quarry, frame quarry, whatever you want to call it. So this thing is crazy efficient. It will do anything you want. So it ate through this part of the world already, as you can see, and it can't go through liquids, but it goes straight on the bedrock each time. So it's made with funky locomotion bricks, as you can see, or frames rather. You need applied energy 62 for the frontal floor, that way it doesn't run into a mountain. And buildcraft for the mining wells, and you need Project Red for repeaters and timers and stuff like that. So basically, what happens is this front pusher here pushes the entire structure, and the second pusher pushes this one back into place. So I'll try and demonstrate this. Basically, this timer is set to 13 seconds. That's about the average time it takes for these pipes to go all the way down, because I am at Y102, and there's a repeater over there set to 8 ticks just to send that signal into that pusher. So if I set this up, it took 13 seconds for the entire structure to move, and it does move. Everything will move forward at once, and notice how that front pusher stays back, and then the back pusher goes forward. So there's a frame drop, just because of how crazy it is. So I'm going to turn it back off. And then you see down here, you see the mining pipes that went down. And I'm not rendering fast enough to see that, but all the way down the bedrock. So how is this built? It's not as complicated as it looks. There's actually 3 main parts that comprise this. So if I go through this teleporter here, which is really useful, it's a mechanism teleporter, and then you need a chunk loader as well, so that the chunks that it stays in can load. You just leave it go. This teleporter goes back to this little setup I have. You need another chunk loader here. So this is like all the stuff I've gotten from. So letting it go. Oh. 1 second. Turn the rain on. So I built it over here, as you can see, and with the front bore. Without that part, it would have hit this mountain and just stopped. It wouldn't have kept going. But with the annihilation panes from the applied energy 62, we cut right through that and continue going no matter what. So the main subunit of these quarries is basically this little 16-line mining well situation here. The reason I had all the frames on the bigger one is just because for some reason something wasn't making it move, and I had to just fill it completely with frames. That isn't necessary at all. All you really have to do is make sure everything you want to move is touching a block, a frame block. So these conduits here aren't touching, so if I do this, take that out. Now these are all touching at least one face of the frame block. And you can see the rest of this isn't set up like that just for presentation purposes, but basically you have a tesseract or a dimensional transceiver, whichever you prefer. That sends in your energy, and you need that for the mining wells and as well as the pushes. They require power. I use Ender Chest just because it was the easiest thing to do. You could somehow set up an AE import system if you really wanted to and send it back to your base, but this is really simple to do. Down here at the fake base, there are 2 Ender Chests actually. This one has 6 import buses on it, all with acceleration cards, just to make importing faster, because you do get a lot of resources, so this is pretty necessary. And then a second one with 5, and when it's running, you get a ton of resources, so all of them go into Ender Chest, and I think that's probably less expensive than trying to hook this up with AE2 and having to put frames around and everything. It's pretty annoying. But I guess you don't really need a controller. I was thinking about this, but You don't need these controller faces because you're only using 8 channels. So you could technically just use a power source, and just, I don't know, something like that. But controllers they're fine. They're not that expensive to make. So you have 2 different types of smart cables. Work them out, branch them out each side by 8. And it doesn't have to be 3 high, but like the height of the entire thing has to be determined by these front panes, because you need to make sure nothing is over. So like when I put these here, those can't be there because it's too high. The annihilation panes will only cover where they are. So if this went through a mountain, the block would go over it, and if there was something here, we would get stuck in it. So you would just do this instead. So that you would just do that instead, and that way it's the same height, and everything would pass over the top of it. That's basically the gist. These annihilation panes, in order to actually get them work, which is something that was pretty tricky for me to get. If I break this cable here, you'll notice this pane took up, but now it won't take up anymore. The reason for that is each pane has a buffer of only 1 item. You can only do 1 thing per buffer. So in order to get those items out, all you need is an export bus hooked up to an under chest that's right next to the controller. You just wire it. All the items that this picks up also gets transferred into your network. And that way, you go to your pane, it'll take a ton of these. And that way it won't ever get stuck. That was a problem I faced, and it was pretty annoying. So the big one I showed you was 3 of these, 16 long by however many, and it was, you know, 1 over here, 1 in the middle, 1 on the right. So I guess technically you could expand it infinitely, but realistically that would be pretty impossible. For one, moving each frame costs power. These pushers, they have a power per frame that they calculate. On top of that, mining wells take power, and to operate them at the fastest, 20 RF per tick is recommended. But you could go slower and just increase the time on your timer, which isn't too bad, but it's not as efficient as it could possibly be. On top of that, your 80 network for the boards needs power. That's typically not a lot. But if you had, say, 10 of these in a row for 160 long, that's insane. That's also a lot of rendering power that your computer needs to do, or your server. So chances are there could be a crash or some sort, if not terrible lag. So a max of 4 would probably be the best and most efficient, but 1 is probably fine as well. On top of that, in the config file for Funky Locomotion, it's default set to only move 1,024 blocks per machine. So I was when I was building the big one, it wouldn't move for some reason, even though everything was touching the frame. Turns out I could only move 1,000, so I increased it to 4,000 just to be safe in the config file. But if you're on a server with this mod, you might not have that luxury of just increasing the config file, or a setting in the config file. So that could be an issue. And on top of that, you know, crashes, that's always bad, so you don't want to do that. Now, you don't have to build this exactly like this. You know, you can set up a different way to get the items out of the mining wells. You do A2 or some other way, I don't know. You also don't need to use Ender IO cables. You can use whatever cable you want as long as it can be moved. So you have many options. This, like the pusher part, that can also be different. You could do 2 sliders, which is like one slides the entire thing over, which slides underneath another slider and pushes it. You can do 1 pusher and 1 slider, which is one pushes the entire thing, and underneath a slider moves to the right. So if that's the pusher, and the soul sand is the slider, the pusher push the entire thing except for this to the right, and then the slider will be underneath this, and then the slider will push it back into place. Right? I don't know. But this is just the easiest way to do it. Just 2 frame pushers pushing each other back and forth. You also don't, as I mentioned, you don't have to use A2 for the bore. You can do MFFS, which is a pretty cool mod. It uses force fields, and you can do different things with it. This force field has scaling, just scales, the one translation module. But this defines the area of the force field, so I can make it taller, wider, however big I want. And I only have to use these 5 blocks. I don't have to use, well, in a real setup you'll need probably a lot more conversion drives, maybe like 3 or 4 more. And possibly another capacitor. But regardless, it's only these compared to a long line of 82 annihilation paints. However, I don't know if this is just a problem with me, but every time I try to use this setup and move anything with these force mobilizers, my game crashes. But it is moving before it crashes, so I feel like it can be done. The only thing is, Frame or Funky Locomotion won't move anything from MFFS, which is kind of a bummer. But to set this up, we do standard timer, so your timer's set to however long. This is 5 seconds. Repeater 8 ticks for the pushers, and spread that out. 8 ticks for this first one to move everything, and then since this one stays still, this is 16 ticks, so it'll move it 8 ticks after this one moves. And then it'll just repeat over and over. So that way everything's moving at the same time. Every big thing. The only thing that's not moving at the same time is this, that just moves that one. And that way this will keep everything in front of the quarry free of blocks that won't get stuck, and you don't have to run long AE cables. Another part about AE that you can do, you can use P2P tunnels instead of just smart cables. You can spread them out. I tried doing this originally, but I couldn't get it to move, and looking back on it, it was because of the config reason. That was why. That's weird. Apparently annihilation paints don't take MFF blocks. Okay. But I tried doing 3 tunnels on each side of this face, do transport cables, and then tunnels going out this way. That way you can extend this basically 32 out each side for 66, since you have to cover the front 2 for the transport. That would work if you could increase the fig, or the config file. And I didn't do that because I wasn't aware of it at the time, but it is a possibility. Those are the many ways you can do it, and it's very efficient. So if I go back, now this mechanism teleporter is really good because Frame or Funky Locomotion will move it. One thing I forgot to right on your core was when you're building your frame core, you'll need the wrench from Funky Locomotion, and you'll notice that if I right click, you can change this. So basically the clear version is like sticky, if you will. It kind of like sticks blocks to it, it allows frames to stick together. It's what connects the entire machine as one whole. When you make it like this, it's no longer sticky, it's more like a slide surface in a way. So blocks can slide over it. So we want the entire top and bottom and the sides as well, the very far sides, to all be that opaque version. That way everything can slide past it without getting stuck. Otherwise, if you have just one, let's say I just add that one, it would get stuck on a block if it was going through a mountain, and then your core would stop moving and you would stop the move switches. So you don't want that, and I don't know why this picks it. So yeah, I hope you did a good job at explaining, and have fun mining all your stuff. Leave a like and favorite, and I'll see you guys next time.